have a question. You have a lot of data that seems to span the west, the east, the north, and the south. Have you thought about perhaps aggregating or maybe sort of comparing manta ray abundance in areas that have people and areas that don't have people? So somehow try to understand if there's an association or a lack of between the mantas you see and, you know, human encroachment or human habitation.
There's two things going on here. One is his kind of historical knowledge about cleaning stations and where to dive to see them. I have travelled throughout the Maldives. I have dived most of the channels in most of the atolls. I have tried many hundreds of different reefs in different places. And based on my observation, the distribution of mantas seems fairly equal throughout the Maldives, except for those sort of central southern atolls where we're unable to locate manta rays. The largest areas of human habitation in the Maldives are obviously Mali, and then the south, Furmula and Addu. And the rest of the Maldives, it's fairly well distributed throughout individual atolls. Certainly the population of North Mali Atoll, as far as manta rays is concerned, is very good. I mean, we're looking at 500 mantas in Mali, which is pretty much the predicted population based on the area.
So that leads me to my second question, which is, I think, was supposed to be my first question, but do you think pollution and nutrient enrichment in this case is actually having a positive effect on manta ray aggregations?
Possibly. Yes, there's no positive or no negative evidence on that. I mean, Martin said, North Mali population is what you'd expect it to be, despite the fact that the human population is enormous. So it doesn't seem to have had any detrimental effect. Yes.
Is it growing?
We're unable, we'd need to do several population studies to do that. It's too early.
Is able to express obviously the top part of the reef?
Yeah.
Is it considered a cleaning station? Because I remember going there once, and then I saw around 2 to 3 white-tipped reef sharks there. Yeah. Is it considered a cleaning station?
Yes, it is. It's not a manta cleaning station, but it's absolutely a shark cleaning station. And you're correct. That's at the top of the reef at Imbudu. There are lots of mainly the blunt-head wrasse, and that's exactly it. The white tips hover above the reef when there's current, and that they use it as a cleaning station. Yes, you're correct. It is a cleaning station.
In the west of Male, but I see around a lot of mobula passing through.
Okay.
In the Hulang monsoon. I think that's the southwest monsoon. Do manta rays migrate during that time, or do they breed?
Okay. You've cited mobula rays on the west of North Mali.
West of Male.
Yeah, in the southwest monsoon.
Yeah. Okay.
Mobula rays eat different things to mantas. They eat similar things. Mobulas are usually more like an eagle ray and tend to be attracted to current areas, more so than manta rays. Manta rays they live offshore more than mobula rays do. The second half of your question was about, so I'm saying their ecology is slightly different. And then sorry, what was it about the manta ray, sorry?
Do they breed like at that time? Because I remember a person telling me that mobula rays are basically just baby mantas.
Well, not quite. They're different species. They do have different behaviour. Mobula ray are more like eagle ray. They're less evolved than manta ray. well, most species of mobula. Sorry, this is a whole different, slightly different group of animals. I said these are smaller devil rays, as for those of you who are not familiar with what a mobula ray is, and they tend to live more in the water column, but they actually do visit cleaning stations, but they behave more like a mobula, an eagle ray, in that they tend to spend more time in the water column, and then they're not plankton feeders so much as they're bottom feeders, but they will also go offshore and eat plankton, just to make things really confusing. They're a bit more of a generalist feeder. So, yeah, the mating season, okay, mantas can actually mate all year round. Okay, mobula probably can too, but that hasn't been investigated. So I know that manta rays can mate and become pregnant, and females can become pregnant at any time of year. But there are main periods of the year when there is a lot of food available, and that's actually coming up now, because when we start to go into the change of monsoon, things start to change and the plankton levels change, and when this happens we end up with a really good mating season time, so we end up with more mating at this time of year. So usually now and October, November time are when the mantas mainly mate, but they can mate at any time.
You said when the corals turn rubble they'll recover like 25 years, so how many inches or meters will they grow each year?
Well, every species is different, but sometimes it takes a long time for the coral to reseed itself. So the reef may take 5, 10, 15 years when it still stays as rubble and doesn't recolonize, whereas another reef, 1 or 2 years later, starts to colonize. And every time a reef colonizes, it is slightly different. So if you have a fast-growing coral, like a table coral, for instance, these grow really fast. And so a little coral lands, starts to grow, and 3 years later you have a nice table coral, which is quite impressive. And so if the whole reef is covered with these small table corals, it will look very nice after only 4 or 5 years. But if the rock of the reef is very damaged, which it would have been in this case, there's nothing for the coral to grow. And if a little table coral tries to grow, because it's all rocky and rubbly, the rock will fall away, so the table coral can't grow, and that is the problem. So that's why it's going to take so long for an encrusting coral to grow on it, and that's why it's going to take a very long time to recover.
My second question is, if there is a underwater volcano went near the cleaning station, there will be many bacteria and things. So will there be many cleaning fish and mantas?
I'm not sure where you've picked up this underwater volcano business from. The volcanic chain which the Maldives is based on was 50 million years ago, and there's not likely to be an underwater volcano of any risk to the Maldives in the foreseeable future. So it's not likely to happen, so don't worry.
Okay, thank you. I would like to ask, how does the monitoring happen? Is it possible to send ID shots directly to you? And also, do you collaborate with other organizations in the Maldives, like the Manta Trust or so on? Do you share data with them, or how does it work?
Okay. You can send it direct to me, or you can send it to mantamatcher.org, which is the database which I'm collecting data from at the moment. The Manta Trust, although we're collaborating, we're not sharing data presently. It's expected that in maybe 18 months, 2 years, that will not be the situation, but that's not because we haven't asked them. They decided not to share with us at the present. But we're hoping that that's going to change soon. Okay, so it's basically anyone that would like to send photographs, please send them either to myself, get my email at the end, or send them to mantamatcher.org. There's my email.
Excuse me, there are cleaning stations that the mantas frequently visit, right? So how do you identify whether a particular manta ray visits it frequently, or is it that there's a group of mantas? How do you identify whether it's the same group?
Okay, well, I've actually got quite a nice photograph for you here. So each manta looks slightly different. I know that probably sounds really funny, but it's because they've got these patterns of marks on them. You missed the first presentation when I went through this in a little detail. But each manta has got this pattern of marks. You can see these 3 dots in this area, and there's other dots in this sort of lower area as well. And they're all unique, so each manta is different. So you can identify each manta. And with a little experience, you can quite quickly work out, you know, this is the one with 3 dots, this is the one with, lots and lots of dots, that's got, only 1 mark, and you work out that you've got 3 different mantas. So even if they swim away and come back, you can still recognize the first 3. And by taking photographs, you can work out which ones you saw during a survey or a dive. And then I keep a database of all the animals that I've ever seen, and I cross-reference them so that I check the ones that I've seen before so that I can re-recognize them. And it is just simply done from the markings. There's other sort of characteristics, but that is what we use because these markings are unique to each animal.
So that means that the mantas know which cleaning stations they want to visit.
Yeah, and this is important. We do find high fidelity of certain animals to certain cleaning stations. So one cleaning station, there will be maybe 200-300 mantas, if it's a really well-known cleaning station that a lot of different mantas visit. And other places, it's a very small population, maybe 20 or 30 mantas visit it. And so it's the same 20 or 30 every time. And, you know, there's one cleaning station where over the years I've had 700 plus different animals visit, and very few have been seen twice. So it's every time you go, you get different animals, which is quite incredible. And that's only the time, I only seen 700 for the times I've been there, so I'm not there most of the time. So goodness knows how many animals have been to that one, yeah.
Does all the mantas have those dots and things over their body?
Yeah, they have particular patterns which vary between the 2 species. And can I just say, I didn't discover that there was 2 species of, the new species of mantas in the Maldives. I identified that there are 2 different species of mantas in the Maldives, and these are identifiable by the patterns of markings that they have. The other species, which is known as the giant manta, which grows very, very large, is very rare in the Maldives, and that particular species does not have any marks in this area. They have spots lower down on their abdomen and around, you know, the edge of their wings. But it's you know, if the top side is dark, kind of black, the underside, the ventral side, is usually white with markings. And on some manta rays, there are no markings between the gill slits. These are the gill slits, yeah. So sometimes these spots are not present, but there will always be patterns of markings, mottles, spots, etc. in the lower area, and yes, they are always different. If it was an all-white manta, then maybe I wouldn't be able to identify it, but I have never found an all-white manta so far.
Hello.
Hello.
Through your years of research, you probably have published literature on your findings. Where can we get access to such literature?
Okay. If you would like, you can get it via you know, scientific publication access, you know, through, I don't know what you use, but or contact me direct and I'm sure I'll be able to help you, give you an idea of what you would like. You know, if you tell me what you would like. With this presentation, there are references for the presentation for what has gone into this, and the same with the previous presentation. But if you want to contact me direct, if there's anything specific, and I'm sure I can give you a copy of my paper.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
There have been reports that in Ba Atoll Hanifer, these vessels are scaring off the manta. So is it possible that it is not the divers themselves that are scaring away, but the vessels? The vessels.
The resorts?
Yeah.
Okay. I've been trying to show that manta rays and humans can definitely coexist. We can go and snorkel with them, and we can scuba dive with them quite happily, and the mantas accept our presence as long as we do nothing to threaten them. I'm sure that you can imagine that if in Hanifaru they're mainly feeding, so the manta rays are on the surface, and if a dhoni drove in very quickly and drove straight through the manta rays are not going to be very happy. You know, it's going to maybe damage them, and if this happens too frequently, it might frighten them. So it's just common sense to make sure that when any activities around manta rays are done in a responsible manner. And at Haniwharu, they've restricted the number of people who are allowed to go into the lagoon. And also the activity is now restricted to snorkeling. I agree that the number of people needs to be limited. I am not able to tell you exactly what level is a good level of number of people should go in that lagoon. But I don't believe that scuba diving is particularly detrimental, and I don't think it's any different to snorkeling. And actually, a skilled scuba diver will probably cause less interference to a manta than an inexperienced snorkeler, as far as their skills are concerned, and possibly kicking the manta or trying to ride it or whatever else. And I do appreciate that the vast majority of people that go to Haniwharu have been briefed properly and behaved properly, and I do appreciate that. Yes, I mean, there has been disturbance there, and I think it's just about being responsible about how we continue to manage tourism at Haniwharu, so that the mantas are left to feed and to clean, because there's actually a cleaning station at Haniwharu as well. And at the same time, the resorts can earn income, and so can the liveaboards, because I work for a liveaboard. I would like to go back to Haniwharu and dive with them and get the mantas there. It was a very special experience.
Like you said, that the giant mantas are very infrequent in Maldives.
That's right.
When you spot them, which areas do you find them most of the time?
Sorry, I haven't got my pictures with me. Well, I have, but they're on my... Come and talk to me afterwards, and I'll just give you a quick how to identify difference between the two species with photographs, because talk it through is going to be quite difficult. But basically, a giant manta, if this is the underside and my fingertips of the head, they have a kind of a dark band on the edge, and that is the one thing which really stands out, which the smaller species, which is common in the Maldives, and Alfred Manta doesn't really have. That's the one thing that really stands out.
You said you can identify rays by the dots underside. Do you usually put transmitters on them?
Okay, now that would be a sensible way of following mantas around. However, I know I don't tag mantas, and no, I haven't used any kind of transponders or devices, mainly because my understanding is that the manta rays here are very good at getting rid of the devices, the transponders. That, I said about cleaning. Well, they don't just visit cleaning stations. They also rub their bellies in the sand. They probably scratch themselves against reefs. I've seen one actually flip over and bounce upside down on sand and then kind of curve itself back up again. And I think what has probably happened is that the manta ray felt the tag, which nothing to do with me, I would add, when the tags were tried, that the manta ray was probably could sense it and felt it to be some kind of parasite and managed to remove it. And this has happened so many times here that we're not bothering to tag. I've not done it anyway, but there is no sort of planned tagging activity currently.
So that means it's very hard to tag a manta ray.
Hard to take a manta ray, to tag a manta ray, yes. It's funny because in other areas they don't really seem very bothered, and the giant mantas are quite easy to tag. Yeah, but you can put a tag on a giant manta, but we don't see them very often here, so find one first. Not that I'm going to, I would add. I don't really think it's necessary to tag them. I think it's better to observe them. So my research is done by visiting the cleaning station, recognising the mantas that I see, and following them as far as next time I go to that cleaning station, or if I go to another cleaning station, I might recognise them there. And certainly in Mali Atoll, we have, several hundred now which have travelled from east side to west side, and I recognise them. They're not friends, that's the wrong word, but they're very easy to recognise, and it's very nice because I've now been seeing them 10, 11, 12 years, and I've seen them pregnant several times. They're very friendly mantas, as in they come and have their photographs taken. It's a very enjoyable experience with some of these animals which you see over and over again. And when you do see one that you've seen maybe for 5, 6, 10 years, and it's like, oh, it's Butterfly, and she's pregnant again, and oh, she's with so-and-so, and, you know, Melanie and another manta, and, you know, and it's like, oh, maybe she has, you know, maybe this male is going to be her new mate. It's a little bit of speculation, but it is nice to see the same mantas over and over again, and that's what we use the markings for. And I'm very keen to just observe mantas in their natural behaviour. So I don't want to change what they're doing. I don't want to scare them. I just want to stay back and watch them and observe them behaving naturally.
Hello.
Hello.
My question is how these cleaning stations form. What's the first stage?
Well, it's a reef. It's part of a reef. And as I said, there's very different kinds of reef which could be a cleaning station. And it seems to be that different species of fish are attracted to a section of reef for a different reason. So, like I said, the blue streak cleaner wrasse, they tend to find a small area of reef, usually quite sheltered. They wait in the reef, and they advertise their services by swimming in the water column, and then the fish come. So they are probably drifting around looking for a suitable location, then they find one and stay there. Whereas the blunt-head wrasse, these are often very large aggregations of hundreds of fish, and again, they probably drift around in colonies, you know, of hundreds at a time, and when they find a suitable area where they seem to be getting a lot of clients, they probably, you know, that becomes their new territory. It's very much a case of go, look, see, find, and stay.
And the Mantas find them.
Yeah, and manta rays are a very wide-ranging animal. They swim 40 kilometers a day. You know, that's a lot of movement. So they probably sweep up and down these ocean reefs, up and down channels, you know, looking for food, looking for places they can just hang in the current, looking for social opportunities. They're very social animals. And while they're out looking, they're checking out cleaning stations. And when they find nice ones, they use them.
And my second question is quite silly. Why do these mantas move so slowly?
They don't. They can move really fast. Actually, I suppose that the video I've been showing is when they're at cleaning stations, and they do move really slowly because the cleaner fish can't keep up with them otherwise. If they're swimming fast and swimming away from the cleaning station, then the cleaner fish get left behind. Or, you know, it's like, that's my home. You know, I can't keep up with the manta. So the mantas swim very slowly, and they swim, you know, nearby the rock or the area of reef where the cleaner fish live, and therefore the cleaner fish have a home. Just in case maybe a tuna or a jack comes flying in, because otherwise they've got nowhere to hide. Because what will happen is as soon as they sense that the tuna is coming, they jump back into the reef and hide, and the manta ray can swim away, but the cleaner wrasse can't. And I have actually seen that. So a manta ray has got lots of cleaner fish, and a jack has come in and just picked off loads of the cleaner fish and then swum away. So that's not very good, because who's going to clean the jack?
I was going to ask that, how many species of manta rays are there in Maldives?
Okay, there are just 2 species worldwide. Okay, so we're looking at the Alfred Manta, which is the one we have here, the common one. Oh, sorry, I lost the slide. So the one in this photograph. So that's the common one you see, and it accounts for 99.5% of all the observations of manta rays in the Maldives. Okay, so this is the smaller manta ray, grows to a maximum size of, maybe about the wingspan of the central section of seats. So it's still a pretty big manta. Okay, and then the giant manta grows to about from the end of this line and probably until the wall. That's a very big manta. That is the giant manta. We do get them in the Maldives, but infrequently. And there are only 2 species worldwide. And the smaller species is mainly Indo-Pacific, and the giant species is seen all the way around the world and actually goes into quite cold water as well.
How fast can a manta ray swim?
I've never measured it in distance. I've only done it in wing beats, I'm afraid. So that's probably a job for the future. Count wing beats and measure the stretch of reef and see how far it went. Sorry. That's a good question, and I'll have to follow that up because I can't answer that. Thank you. Something to do.
Hello. When manta rays stop coming to the cleaning station, where do they go off to?
Well, a manta ray, again, I covered this in my last presentation, but I appreciate there's some people who know quite a bit and other people won't, have lots of gaps now. A manta ray visits a cleaning station about once a day. if they're going to visit a cleaning station. And they use it as part of their daytime activity. So what they'll do is that at night they spend it in the deep water, feeding in 200 meters of water, and then during the day they kind of cruise around and they're kind of in sleepy mode, and they'll visit a cleaning station as part of that, you know, daytime activity, because mantas, like sharks, are quite nocturnal, so they do most of their activity at night. Their feeding and so forth is done at night. So they just cruise around looking for a cleaning station. So if they're not at one cleaning station, they're probably at another cleaning station. And like I said, a manta can easily travel 40 kilometers in a day. So that's pretty much, you know, most of Mali. So if they went to Lankan and didn't fancy Lankan for whatever reason, they could easily go up to Colosseum or up to Meru or even right up to the north. Or if they wanted to, they could cross to South Mali, couldn't they? So they can travel quite a lot of distance, and they've probably just gone to another cleaning station. But at the moment, we don't know where that is.
And Marie, I'm just wondering, what's the history of manta ray consumption in the Maldives? Has it been sort of eaten or used traditionally?
No. I think generally the answer is not. There's not a traditional fishery of mantas. Particularly stingray skins were used for the body berry drums, from my understanding, but not manta rays. I think they're just very large animals, and in sort of traditional fishery with the small boats, you know, the fishery here has always been about tuna for consumption, and it's so plentiful. Manta rays don't taste very good. They have a lot of urea in their skin, so it starts to smell off very quickly of bad fish. And the Maldives, there's so much good, you know, tuna and whitefish, snapper, etc., to eat that there's not been a significant fishery.
And globally?
Sorry?
Globally, why?
Well, globally, that's different. Again, I kind of covered this last time, that certain countries, in particular our neighbours, India and Sri Lanka, have taken manta for food, and more recently for Chinese medicine, where the gill rakers are sold as a blood purification product. It's complete nonsense. It's not, you know, medically proven in any way. And now manta rays are actually protected internationally, so that there is no trade allowed between countries. So, for instance, if Sri Lanka wanted to sell manta gill rakers to China, they can't do that anymore. Now, if Sri Lanka wants to continue to catch mantas to eat or to use locally, they can, because there's nothing, you know, Sri Lanka does what they like with their fish. But I would hope that India, Sri Lanka, etc., would decide that manta rays are actually worth a lot more from tourism. For instance, a set of gill rakers from an adult manta, you're lucky to get $60 to $100. We did a calculation that some of our well-known manta rays that visit Lankan, Madivaru, in their life are probably worth $1 million. $1 million in tourists who go and see them and are happy because they took a photograph of that manta and went home. Yeah, they did nothing. So that manta's still there for the next time to take another photograph and make another diver happy. Okay, so even it's a no-brainer. You know, it's like mantas are valuable for tourism, but if you start to harvest them, what did I say, 6,500? So do your maths. So $100 tops times 6,500. That's not very much money, is it? Whereas $1 million for one manta in its lifetime for tourism, that's good maths. You know, one manta, we've got thousands. Yeah. And Indonesia, I think, have just announced that now mantas are now completely protected in Indonesia. Hurrah! So that's good. The Maldives, it is already a protected species, but Indonesia was a big fishery area, which were again exporting to China, and they've worked out how valuable mantas are to their tourism as well, so they're now protected, and that was just recently announced, like 1 week, 2 weeks ago. Hello.
Hi. How close to a manta ray can you get? Like, how close would...
When you let the manta ray choose to come and visit you. So if you sit quietly, or kneel, or find a sandy area, or just hover very, very still, the mantas are very curious, and they will come very, very close to you. If you try to swim to them or try and touch them, they don't like that, and they'll swim away. But if you stay very, very quiet, The manta rays come very close to you. You saw the feeding video at night? Well, if you have a light, the mantas will almost touch your hand. They're so close, okay? Because you're holding a torch, and they're attracted to the plankton that goes in the torch, and they come so close that they're almost touching your hand. So very, very close is the answer.
So it's like, don't come near me, I'll go near you if I want to.
Perfect, exactly. It's like, that's the arrangement they like. Leave me alone, but I'm curious of you, so I'm allowed to come and visit you, but you know, humans, we back off and let them come to us. They do.
Why do the false cleaners disturb the manta rays?
Because false cleaners don't clean the fish, they actually take chunks of skin off. So it's like you having a manicure and somebody chopping the end of your finger off. You're not going to like that. And so the cleaner fish is then the false cleaner is eating the part of the fish that they've bitten off, and it hurts. And if you've ever watched a fish or a manta or a shark, when they get attacked by a false cleaner, they really do wince. It hurts, and that's why they don't come back. So they wince and they swim away, and that's it. They don't come back, okay? Because they've actually been bitten, not cleaned.
I wanted to ask you whether if you have noticed any difference in the population or behavior of the manta rays after the tsunami?
Yes, that's a good question, because I must admit, I expected that there would be some changes, but actually the reefs generally changed very, very little after the tsunami. And there wasn't any changes in my own observations. Places like Lankan, which were east-facing, the mantas still came. The only places which were quite badly affected by the tsunami were east-facing channels, places like Garaidu Channel, like near Fateo, in Falidu Atoll. A lot of the east-facing channels in Falidu, because they're very narrow channels, and a lot of the coral got pulled off the front and run down the channels and destroyed the habitat in the inside. But generally, these weren't manta cleaning stations. And I can't actually think of a single site, no, I can't, which was adversely affected. So very lucky that, there wasn't a problem after tsunami, or even after the El Nino, which is now like 16 years ago, isn't it? But there wasn't really any change after that either.
In which area of the world is the most dense population of manta rays? I mean, is there any difference in population around the different areas of the world?
Okay. The populations are still being studied throughout the world. But it appears that the Maldives has a very high population relative to the size of the country. Now, it may be that Indonesia has a very large population as well, because it is also but it's a very large island nation. But at the moment, it seems to be that we have certainly the highest measured population.
Do manta rays populate cold waters like the Arctic region or something?
No, they don't like water quite that cold. The giant species is found in waters up to or down to about 10, 13 degrees C. But the smaller species is pretty much a tropical species and really doesn't like water below 20.
Do you have a migratory route of these manta rays? Is it specific to the Indian Ocean, or is the giant manta ray different to the normal manta rays? Anything of that sort?
Yeah, the species behave differently in different countries. The smaller species, the Alfred species in the Maldives, is migratory because of our seasons. So it is forced to move from one side of the atoll. And this is the only truly migratory population in the world. Most other populations of Alfredi are very localized to an island or a group of islands, and it will not cross to a nearby group of islands. And it's probably because their food source is not moving, whereas in the Maldives it does because of the change of the oceanic flow, as it were, and the ocean, I'm sure you know the island upwelling effect and so forth, the effects of that. Anyway, so the smaller species, it's dependent on the locality, but the Maldives, we seem to have the only truly migratory. The giant species is very different, and it is very migratory, as in it moves from one area to another, not seemingly returning to the same area on a regular basis, even on an annual basis. Not a great deal of research has been done on the giant species in the Indian Ocean so far. It is quite expensive, and because they can travel such long distances, the only way to track them really is to use satellite tags. And the trouble with satellite tags is that you can place one on a manta in one location, and even if you ask for it to be set to dislodge after 3 months or 6 months, one, it might go early, or two, in that 6 months it might have travelled 1,000 kilometres and then come back, and we don't know where it's been unless it went on the surface during that 1,000 kilometres. So the information you get is not ideal. This is probably going to be a fairly long-term question to get a good answer for, yeah. But they are migrating. They do. The giant species travels literally thousands of kilometres.
Yeah, my second question is, you mentioned they don't under 25 degrees, right?
About 20, say.
Yes. Is there a higher value because there's a global sea level temperature rise and the mantas might move up or something like that?
Not that I'm aware of. Certainly they're present in the Red Sea, and the Red Sea, in the sort of southern Red Sea, it's quite high temperatures sometimes. There's not any published data on that, so I would be looking for anecdotal information from areas where there is higher temperatures. And a lot of these areas, they just haven't been studied yet, or are being studied now.
I wanted to ask, what do you believe are the main aspects about a manta ray that makes it important that the species is protected?
Well, I kind of had a question like this last time, and the important aspect here is the value, as the tourism attractant. They are perceived by the general public, and certainly the diving public in particular, around the world as a must-see animal. That it's a beautiful, large, enigmatic creature, same as a panda or an elephant or a tiger or a lion. These are a creature that you travel the world to visit. And in the Maldives, it's almost guaranteed that you can come to the Maldives to see a manta ray. Okay. I got asked the question, well, what happened to the environment if all the mantas are removed? And the answer is not an awful lot, because the population is quite small. They eat plankton, which is the bottom of the food chain, so it's not really going to affect the rest of the food chain. So the world would just be, like what would happen if pandas became extinct? But for this country, for tourism, for the perception of the world about our pristine marine environment, they are an important indicator.
Approximately how many eggs does a manta ray lay every time?
They don't have eggs. They are internally fertilized, and the baby grows in a uterus inside the mother. It's not placental development. It's slightly different. But basically, the baby manta, a single baby manta, the mother has a pregnancy of about 13 months, which is a long pregnancy, and the baby is born as a large, 2 meters, small manta.
Only one?
And just one, yeah. One very large offspring.
They're not mammals, right?
No, they're not. It's a fish, yes. But sharks and rays, same family, have a very wide, different ways of developing their offspring, from basic egg case laying in dogfish right the way through to full placental development, same as a mammal. So for anyone that didn't know that sharks could develop their young in such different ways, it's a very, very interesting subject, and does somewhat reflect the 400 million years worth of evolution that sharks and rays have. 400 million years. That's a long time.
Could you give me an idea of how they develop their offspring?
Offspring. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, you mean in the uterus, what's happening?
After birth.
Oh, after birth, no, that's it. Baby is probably born in a lagoon in the Maldives. So these big sheltered lagoons, even like Hulumali, the lagoon there, we used to see baby manta rays in there. Not so much now, but certainly when the ferry jetty was first set up, you used to get the big lights and baby mantas in them. So almost certainly the mother is giving birth in big sheltered lagoons because that protects the offspring. And there's a ready-made food source in small shrimps that live in these lagoons in the water column. So the baby can feed straight away. They're protected from larger predators like tiger sharks and hammerheads. And the baby will look after itself. There is no parental care. The mother goes back to the ocean and lives with the adults, whereas the juvenile stays in the lagoon probably for the first few years of its life. And that's a subject I'm currently researching.
I've heard that they feed on tortoise. Is it true?
No, they eat plankton, so tiny shrimps. And they will eat, they'll eat small fish, which you can swallow, like we would swallow whole, like white bait, that kind of thing, so like bait fish. But they don't eat anything else. They're nothing bigger than about that. Okay, so they eat plankton and they eat small fish.
What are the main threats to a manta ray in the marine environment?
I said damage to their cleaning stations.
Natural threats.
Natural threats. Yeah, so some form of damage. So maybe a bad tsunami or kind of really drastic change to the cleaning station habitat, but it would have to be on a fairly large, on a large basis, and not just one cleaning station. So swathes of kilometres of reef would have to be damaged so that it would really, they wouldn't have somewhere to clean anymore. And something which affected the plankton. So potentially, we really don't know what's going on with climate change, but as the water, the oceans do acidify and they warm up, these are potentially major threats to manta ray populations. We don't know what the effects are going to be, is the answer.
Thank you.
And man, of course, but we know that. And man, fishing them irresponsibly, yes.
What is the average lifespan of manta ray?
Okay. We are not 100% sure, but we have a manta ray who was known from Lankan and was pregnant in about 1986 from a photograph of her being pregnant. And if she was pregnant, she was at least 13, 15 years old. So this manta is still seen out and about on the reefs now. So we know that this particular manta is certainly 40 years old now. But we don't know if in 1986 she was 15 or 20 or 25 or already 40. So all that we know is that a manta ray can live at least 40 years, but it might be 70, it might even be 100. I'm going to guess it's probably, around 60, 70 years. Okay?
Are their deaths always caused because of natural deaths or any other cause?
No, there is a natural predator, which is tiger sharks, and there are lots of tiger sharks around the Maldives. I'm sure you're aware of that. They tend to be in offshore waters, but that is where manta rays spend the majority of their lives. This is something which is very difficult to evaluate, because until we're 100% sure that a manta ray has been taken out of the population, it's hard to sort of see, to calculate whether that manta is potentially, being killed by there's so many things that could have killed it, but say it was a tiger shark. We do see a lot of manta rays with tiger shark bites or other shark bites, even in adults, and we don't know whether that is because we have a lot of bites, or not a lot, but a fair number of animals which get attacked and then escape, but we don't know how many get attacked and get eaten. There is a study made in Africa for Mozambique where the majority of manta rays have at least one shark bite. and there, the perception is that there is a lot of sharks and attacking the mantas, but they seem to be escaping there. But again, we don't really know how many are actually being eaten. So although we have less manta rays with tiger shark bites, we don't actually know how many are actually being eaten because we know that we have big tiger sharks here. So again, another study area. Hi.
Hi. I wanted to ask if there is any data about the demographics of the population. I mean, is the population increasing or decreasing?
Yeah.
Anything like that?
Okay, no, it's really too early to tell. Like I said, what we'll need to do is, several kind of fixed point analysis of what we know the population to be locally and looking for changes in population. But we've only really done one study so far of the population to get that first estimate, and that would be a very long-term study. But yes, it will be done, but it's going to be, maybe another 2-3 years until we do the second study, and then going from there. Okay.